Hello, Curriculum Advisory. Welcome back to the 17-18 school year. Really excited about starting this school year off. And one of the things that I wanted to start us off with is something that I've spent a lot of time reading, thinking about, talking about with colleagues and professionals this summer is something that kind of came up a little bit last year in various ways and conversations, and is something that may be unexpected, but I think is a good place for us to start as we move into year two of our group in Curriculum Advisory. And that's this idea of trust. And I bet that's not maybe what you were thinking I was going to say, but it really is the foundation of all we do. And being able to have a safe and trusting environment like you do in your classrooms and in your families and in your communities, I believe allows us to have more open, authentic dialogue. And so I've just thought a lot about how do we start to build an even greater capacity for trust with one another and with our group this year. Because as we continue to um, work through the difficult work that we have before us, which is to help students be the best versions of themselves, social, emotionally, academically, involved in their communities, as citizens in the world in which we live. How do we, as the adults, foster that amongst ourselves? And so I really wanted us to start there because it's something that I've heard in several different meetings and several different places with one-on-one conversations in larger groups. And I really wanted us to dive into this idea of trust as our foundation. And how do you build trust personally and professionally? How do you what are some ways that you foster open dialogue and ways that you can listen and hear what the other person is saying without jumping to conclusions immediately? I had a recent example where I had said something that I didn't know was we just did that training on implicit bias that had some bias in it. And a friend of mine called me out. She said, Stace, do you know what that sounded like? I'm like, no, what did it sound like? And she's like, well, it sounded like you were saying this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is not all. She's like, yeah, don't say that again. I'm like, okay, thank you for telling me. And I really had to self-reflect, and it took a high level of trust between us for her to know that she could tell me that. I would hear it, I would reflect on it, and I would change appropriately based on that. So in order for us to delve into year two conversations that are going to require us to have a higher level of engagement, I really want us to think about how we build our capacity and our trust. So I'll share with you how I do that, and then I want to hear about kind of how you do that. So somebody asked me, like, what is it that you want, and like, what do you really want? And I kind of was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, what's your end game? And after a conversation, I was like, my end game was really just to have a collaborative, open dialogue and discussion, and to get ideas generated. I didn't have like a master plan in mind. At the end of the day, I really just wanted to kind of talk through and hear what other people thought. And I think one of the things for me, the way that I build trust and capacity with people is whether or not people have the best intentions, I always assume that they do. I always assume the best in people. And I don't think that hurts us or myself or them in any way, because what's the opposite? Thinking that they have ill will intention and spinning about that, that's not going to get us anywhere. So for me, whether it's a time when I, really have to push down and remind myself that this person wants the same thing I do. We just maybe aren't communicating it in the same way, because we're all here because we really do want the best for kids. I have to kind of step back and say, how am I contributing to this discussion? And am I doing it in a professional, kind, authentic way? Am I listening? Am I pausing? Am I giving the person the respect that they deserve to share their view and their viewpoint? Am I letting frustration get me off track? So those are some of the ways that I kind of process through and build trust with my colleagues, with others, so that that foundation is strong. Because when there's trust built, whether it's between teachers and administrators, or administrators and students and colleagues and what a community, right? Whenever there is a strong foundation of trust, then we can feel like we can be even more vulnerable. We can be more honest. We can really see people through the lens that they see through, because we only have our lens. We're not allowed to get somebody else's lens. We don't have those experiences that they have. So those are some of the meandering thoughts that I've been really kind of thinking about. And I know it takes us away from the, okay, what about this curriculum, and we're doing this and giving you all the updates, which you're going to get all that online, and you'll be able to look through that and ask any questions you want. But I really wanted to take this opening time, this opening virtual time, to get to the core of what I think right now, especially when you look at even the larger social justice issues that kind of we're seeing in the world, right? If this is the macro going around us as a microorganization, what's our awareness level? Where are we at? And so, as leaders, and I see you as leaders in this organization, you are the ones that are representative of your colleagues. You are the ones that are there to advise us. We have to be open to listening to each other and building that level of trust. So I'm going to post a question I'd like you to answer in a video response. I know some of you don't like to do a video response, but it is nice to put a name with a face. It is, it personalizes this experience virtually. So please respond in a video. And I know that's maybe difficult, but I know you can do it. And then I'll post some questions for us to kind of, that's kind of our opening activity. And then when we meet in person in September, I'll have all those dates for you. We're going to start going through some of our the work that we've done, all the curriculum work we've done, where we're at with the work. So I appreciate you. I thank you for your time. And one other thing, if you at this point are like, this year I've got this going on, I've got that going on, I've got this at home, I cannot commit to this, that's okay. I need to know that though, because I need to find somebody else who can sit in that spot as a representative for your department and for your building. So please communicate that with me as soon as you can, so that we can make sure that we have the people who can dedicate the time that it takes to this important work. So I thank you for your time, and I will post our first discussion, virtual discussion. Please look at everyone's video. Maybe make a response or two would be really nice for us to hear. And then we'll meet in September. Okay, have a great rest of your day and welcome back.